back again. It is your friendly neighborhood consciousness activist. I've already heard from some of you guys through comments and through some DMs, and it's an honor, really. I'm glad that you guys are on this journey with me, and for yourselves especially, and that you're enjoying the content, that some of you are getting things out of it, and I think that's super cool. As I've said, all of this is incredible, amazing, the coolest thing ever, basically, in my opinion. The image that I'm going to put up here first is not going to be the front page of that declassified document like I've been doing. It's going to be the logo from the Skywatchers group, the Skywatchers HQ on YouTube. And it's one of these orbs. Now, I've seen a lot of the interviews with Jake Barber and his team through both News Nation and some other outlets. I've seen the content that the Skywatchers have put out themselves. I don't remember anyone talking specifically about this image, about the logo that they're using on their website and on their X and on their YouTube account. But it looks like it shows one of these orbs. I don't know if this is a genuine image or if this is a artist rendering or anything like that. But it's still a pretty compelling image. And it looks like some of the orbs that we've seen circulating around that have been either photographed or videoed over the past handful of years or so. So yeah, it's just a pretty compelling image that I wanted to share. I'm always going to do like one of these little intro videos before we get into like the specifics of what we're talking about. And I'm also always going to keep driving the ultimate point that's kind of at the end of this rabbit hole, if you will. And I might sound like a broken record sometimes, or people might get bored or frustrated that I'm repeating myself or whatever, but I think it's important to remember that there might be people watching these videos. I think it's important to remember the focus and the goal of this entire awakening, this entire process. And so, yeah, I'm just going to keep driving home a lot of the points that I think are really important, poignant, relevant. And that first point that I'm going to drive home is, who am I? Maybe we're going to get more into me eventually and some of my experience in my past and what kind of led me down this road. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm really nobody. I'm just a normal, regular person, just like you. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. Those are like the most exciting things about me, really. But I have a particular interest and some knowledge in this particular topic, in this particular subject. And I feel like it's important to share that and to bring awareness to this topic. I'm not claiming to be like the master of this topic or master meditator or some kind of ultimate guru or anything like that. I'm not claiming to be an expert or anything like that. But I am claiming to have some knowledge about this kind of stuff. I have been looking into this for a long time. I've done my own research on this. I've tried to gather up as much information about this topic as I can. I've tried to sort through what I think is BS and what I think is legitimate, or what I think could be legitimate, what I think might be BS. So suffice to say that I think I have a fairly good working knowledge of this consciousness subject in general. So that's the first point I want to reiterate. The second point I want to reiterate is that even though most of the starting place for these videos is going to be the Monroe Institute's technique, that the light at the end of the tunnel here, once we get to the end of this rabbit hole, the real destination here is, some of these ESP or psionic abilities, these extratemporal or extrasensory abilities that human beings, that our minds might be able to produce, might be able to be capable of. Also, the idea of NHI, of aliens, of extraterrestrials, of interdimensionals, ultradimensionals, time travelers, beings in myths, folklore, religious beings, parallel realities, ancient aliens, possibility of pre-existing civilizations on this planet that went extinct or left the planet that were here before us. UFOs, UAPs, USOs, physical and metaphysical phenomenon, even things like 0 point energy coming from the quantum vacuum, basically the idea that you can pull energy out of essentially nothing. It's not quite that simple, but again, that's something that eventually we'll get into. Anti-gravity technology and other kinds of advanced technologies that interface directly with consciousness. The idea of an Akashic record, meaning that there's an idea that everything that is knowable is already out there in that quantum vacuum, and that if you can access it, you can pull ideas, thoughts, knowledge from this realm. So there's a lot that this is being built up to. This is a big ball of tangled mess. And it even gets into things like the simulation theory or the holographic theory, the hologram theory, whether that might be a technical, like a technology-based simulation or hologram, something like the Matrix. Maybe that's an organic simulation or an organic hologram, or maybe it's just a aspect of consciousness itself, consciousness experiencing itself, reflecting back on itself. The topic seems endless, and there's lots of different perspectives on it, but we're taking it low and slow. And again, I'm going to hit you with another point that I've said already, a wall of names here. People whose research, I think, at the very least, deserves consideration. People whose work, even if the entirety of their work or their research or their theories is incorrect or is flawed in some way or controversial in some way, I think ultimately there are pieces of the puzzle to be learned from people like what Ross Coulthart has been doing, Jake Barber and his team, Jeremy Corbell, Lou Elizondo, Stephen Greer, James Fox, Jason Sands, Lindell Logan, Graham Hancock, David Grush, David Fravor, Ryan Graves, Andy Marshall, Eric Von Daniken, Giorgio Tsoukalos, the Ancient Alien guys. That's a short list of names of so many people who have contributed to this kind of topic. And like I said, even though some of these subjects may have holes or gaps in their knowledge or outright silly sounding theories or things like that, people are allowed to be mistaken. People are allowed to be misinformed. But I think the answers that these people are striving for are, if not similar, the same. But there's so much info on this topic that it can be overwhelming. And that's why I really think that low and slow is the best way to go. And it doesn't mean that you can't pursue this on your own or start trying any of these methods. But it is easy to also get or feel overwhelmed.